So here's my problem. This is my Garmin 1030, and yesterday I had a crash on it, and the result is that. You can hopefully see that basically the two wings at the side of the GPS broke off, which is not great, and that means it won't fit in a Garmin mount. Let me just take the case off. Let's clear the rubber case. You can see that it's not really easily replaceable. So what can I do without having to replace the whole unit? And while a Garmin Edge 1030 is probably getting a little bit long in the tooth, this still works fine, and the replacements are several £100s. So I have bought this. It is the Trigo computer mount rotate replacement parts. There'll be a link in the video description, of course. I got this from Amazon in the UK. It cost me around £20 and I got it next day. In fact, I got it same day delivery, but I saw it available at cheaper prices on AliExpress, and I'm hoping this will have what I need to basically create a separate mount that I place on there and sort of attaches into place. I will lose the pogo contacts, which allows you to have extra power using a mounted battery underneath. I'll lose that functionality, but I've never used it, and frankly, in the scheme of things, this feels like a solid option anyway. So what do we get in the pack? So this, I think, is the most important part, and what I want to do in effect is put that on there, attach it on firmly. They've provided a couple of screws and a 3M sticker that will allow me to stick that in place, screw that down, and hopefully then have something then I can mount that on my bike mounts. That's the idea. So they provided some screws here. It looks like I've got about 4 different screws. Also provided effectively, that's a use that on cork notice boards, and I think that's to create the guide screws. They've also provided a little screwdriver. I'm not going to use that one. I think I will provide my own, and they've also got other parts that can go on the mount on the head unit. Again, in this instance, I'm not going to be using either of those because that part of my mount was not damaged. So let's see how this goes. I should also say I might be, because the plastic on the inside there has revealed some of the circuitry just underneath it, I might use a bit of hot glue to increase the weather resistance of this, because I just don't know if water could ingress into those gaps there, and that just might help me a little bit, but we'll see. Material hasn't been particularly well cut. Even my blade is having problems, but hopefully we can get to most of the excess off. There we go. So that's that done. Okay, that's the peel. Yeah, you can see it's not perfect, but what I'm inclined to do though is, particularly around this point here, is just use a little bit of hot glue to fill up that hole. Maybe I'll just put a tiny bit there. So I'm really using it as filler rather than anything else. Question of mounting. I'll try and get it square on. That's good. That's already quite firm actually. So try and use the screws. I said I wasn't going to use the supplied screwdriver. Okay, that feels like it's done the job. Obviously it's a little bit higher than the previous one, so it's not going to sit quite as flush, but that feels very firm. The 3M label on its own felt quite sturdy, but you definitely need the screws as well, but that feels like it's done a decent job. The proof will be in the pudding, of course, to see how it survives outside and constantly removing and replacing it on my bike, but that feels like it saved me from having to immediately upgrade my GPS unit. Let's see how it goes. Okay, the fact that I am back here means that my repair did not work. As you can see from this slightly muddy unit, and more to the fact, here are the screws that I used. This did not stay on. Or more to the point, it did stay on, but when it came to me trying to remove it from my bike mount, the unit detached itself from the replacement cap. So, and the screws, as you can see, they kind of worked themselves free, so the screws in there did not hold. So while this still works as a cover, I'm going to try something different. An epoxy glue. I'm really hoping that this will help me somewhat. So I'm going to give this a go. No guarantees, but let's get cracking. I happen to have some of this Gorilla Epoxy to hand, so I'm going to try this for the toughest jobs on the planet. I think this counts as one. Okay, for those who don't know, epoxy glues are in two parts. So there you are, you can see there's two liquids and you mix them together. It says on the instructions for at least 20 seconds. So I think the way this works is that you remove this cap here, and I want to break off. I'll use that to block the thing up afterwards. Break off that while holding this upwards. And I need to mix. At least 20 seconds. I'm going to get some of this in here. Probably going to be quite generous. Overspill. So again, try and get it straight, square on. So a little bit the epoxy showing through the centre there. Right. This is a 5-minute set, so let's just wait 5 minutes for the epoxy to take hold. Okay, so off camera I decided that 5-minute set, even though that is what it says on the packet, a little bit of googling determines actually you need 30 minutes and a full 24 hours for the epoxy resin to set properly. So I've re-glued it, and also, as you can see, I've put a clamp around it. So now I'm going to leave it for the full 24 hours before I test trying to actually place it back into a Garmin mount, because again, as before, my experience over the weekend was I could put it into the Garmin mount, but taking it out of the Garmin mount, even with the epoxy resin, after only a 5-minute set, it left the new cover in the mount, and that's a bit fiddly. You have to use screwdrivers and things like that, and things like adjustable wrenches or spanners to get my new mount off it. So let's come back in 24 hours and see what happens. Okay, you join me 24 hours later, and let's see how the epoxy resin, or the epoxy glue, has done when I left this set overnight. Clamp off. That might just mean I need to do a little bit of cleaning, we'll see. If I can put this on the right way. Well, that is definitely on. How does it come off? Yes, it does. Let's just clean up that a little bit. I've got a scalpel here. So the question is, will it hold this time? And is epoxy resin the way forward? Okay, so that looks like it's okay. So take that off again. Yeah, it might take a little bit of doing it multiple times to really. You can see that I'm collecting some overspilt resin, but that's probably not a bad thing. So I think that's going to carry on doing that for a bit, but it does feel like I might actually have a working solution to breathing a little bit more life into my Garmin Edge.